It was a quiet evening, the kind of evening when nothing unusual ever happens. The street outside was calm, and the lights from nearby houses glowed softly in the darkness. Inside his small apartment, Daniel sat on the couch with a cup of tea in his hand. He had just returned from work and wanted only silence. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound that kept him company. For him, this was an ordinary night, the same as every other night. But he did not know that tonight was going to change everything. Daniel was about to take another sip when he heard something unusual. It was not loud, but it was strange. A soft knock echoed through the hallway. He frowned. He was not expecting anyone. It was late, and nobody usually came to his door at this hour. At first he thought maybe it was the wind or perhaps a neighbor by mistake. He waited for the knock again. There it was, clearer this time. A gentle but firm knock, as if someone was standing right outside. Daniel put his cup down slowly and walked toward the door. His footsteps echoed softly on the wooden floor. He felt a small shiver, though he did not know why. He reached the door and placed his hand on the handle. Something in his chest told him that this was not normal. Still, he opened the door. At first, he thought the hallway was empty. But then from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Daniel froze where he stood. The figure was not tall, not short either. It looked almost human, but not completely. The stranger wore a strange uniform, something like a maid's dress, but not from this world. The fabric shimmered faintly as if it was made of light itself. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, her hair silver as moonlight, and her eyes were not like human eyes at all. They were large, shining softly with an otherworldly light. For a second, both of them stared at each other in silence. Daniel's heart began to race. He opened his mouth to ask something, but the words did not come. The figure suddenly froze as if she had made a terrible mistake. Her hands trembled, and her lips parted slightly, but no words escaped. She looked shocked to see him, more shocked than he was to see her. Daniel stepped back slowly. Who are you?" he whispered. His voice was shaking. The strange girl did not answer. She stood like a statue, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Her chest rose and fell quickly as if she was holding her breath. Then, in a voice so soft that Daniel almost did not hear it, she spoke. This is not the right place." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" he asked. But she did not move. She whispered again, this time more desperate. "I should not be here." The air between them felt heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Daniel tried to convince himself that this was some prank. Maybe a costume, maybe a crazy neighbor, maybe anything except what it really looked like. But deep inside he knew this was not normal. Nobody's eyes glowed like that. Nobody's clothes shimmered like that. The stranger took one small step backward, almost tripping on her own feet. Her face showed panic, like someone who had walked into the wrong door and discovered something dangerous. She pressed her hands together tightly, her silver hair falling across her face. Daniel wanted to ask 100 questions, but his voice felt trapped. Finally, he managed to say, "If you are lost, I can help." She shook her head quickly, her glowing eyes darting toward the dark hallway. She whispered again, "No, you cannot help." This was a mistake. A big mistake. For a moment, Daniel thought she would run away, but she did not. She simply stood there, trembling, looking like someone caught between two choices. Then, very carefully, she stepped inside his apartment without asking. Daniel was too stunned to stop her. He only watched as she walked in, her strange uniform glowing faintly in the dim light. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Daniel's heart was pounding in his chest. He had no idea who she was or where she came from. But one thing was certain. This was not an ordinary night anymore. Something strange had walked into his life, and it was only the beginning. As he turned toward her, ready to demand answers, he noticed how her hands shook as if she was hiding something important. She lifted her eyes to him, fear and sadness mixed in their glow. "I cannot go back," she whispered. "Not now." Daniel did not understand what she meant. But he did know one thing. The quiet evening was over, and his life was about to take a turn into the unknown. Daniel stood frozen in the middle of his living room, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. The strange girl had stepped inside his apartment without asking, and now she stood in the center of the room, her glowing eyes darting from one corner to another. She looked like someone trapped in the wrong place, someone who wanted to vanish but could not. The silence was heavy. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, filling the air with each passing second. Daniel finally found his voice. "Who are you?" he asked, his words soft but sharp. The girl did not reply. She only stared at him, her lips parted slightly, her breathing shallow. She looked as if she wanted to speak but could not bring herself to say the words. Her hands trembled as she clutched the fabric of her glowing uniform. The material shimmered faintly under the dim light, changing colors like liquid silver. Daniel's eyes followed the strange fabric, and he realized he had never seen anything like it before. No fashion store, no costume shop, nothing on earth could make such clothing. "Are you lost?" He tried again, his voice calmer now. Her glowing eyes shifted toward him, and for a moment, Daniel felt as if she could see right through him. It was not the kind of look humans gave. Her gaze felt heavier, deeper, as though she was measuring something inside him. He shivered. At last, she whispered in a soft, trembling voice, "You were not supposed to see me." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" The girl shook her head, stepping back until her shoulders almost touched the wall. She looked frightened, like a child caught doing something forbidden. She lowered her gaze as if ashamed and whispered again, "This house, this room, it was a mistake." Daniel's mind spun in circles. A mistake? How could someone just walk into his locked apartment by mistake? Unless she wasn't lying about not belonging here. He took a slow step forward. "Are you saying you didn't mean to come here?" Her eyes widened, and for the first time she nodded, but the fear in her face only grew stronger. Daniel tried to make sense of it. She looked human, but not quite. Her silver hair, her glowing skin, her strange uniform, it all screamed of something different, something otherworldly. A crazy thought ran through his mind. Was she an alien? He pushed the thought away. It was too impossible. Yet looking at her trembling form, he could not think of any other explanation. She pressed her hands together as if gathering courage. Then she said something that made Daniel's blood run cold. I was assigned here. To work, but not on this world." Daniel's breath caught. He stared at her in shock, unable to believe what he had just heard. "Not on this world? What are you talking about?" The girl closed her eyes tightly as if she had revealed too much. For a moment she looked ready to collapse. Then slowly she opened her eyes again and said, "I cannot explain everything, but know this. I should not be here. If they find out, both of us will be in danger." Her words hit him like a storm. Danger? Assigned? Another world? His mind refused to accept it, but his instincts told him she was not lying. Daniel rubbed his forehead, his mouth dry. He wanted to shout, to demand answers, but something about her fragile state stopped him. She looked like a lost bird, too frightened to fly. "Listen," he said carefully. "If you are in trouble, I need to know. Who are they? Who will come?" The girl shook her head again, her silver hair catching the light. "I cannot say. Not yet." Her glowing eyes filled with something Daniel could not name. Fear, sadness, and maybe guilt. She looked down at the floor and whispered so softly he almost missed it. "I only have a short time before they notice." A chill ran through Daniel's body. Notice? Who would notice? The air in the room seemed to thicken. Daniel realized something strange. Ever since she entered, the air itself felt different, charged with an invisible energy. It made his skin prickle and his thoughts race. He glanced at the window, half expecting someone or something to appear outside. The girl suddenly pressed a small object on her wrist. It was a thin band, almost invisible until it lit up with a faint blue glow. Strange symbols flashed across it, symbols Daniel could not recognize. She studied them quickly, her expression tight with worry. "What is that?" Daniel asked. She did not answer. She only whispered again, "Wrong assignment." "Wrong world." Daniel felt as if the ground under him was no longer solid. His ordinary life had cracked open, and something unearthly had slipped in. This girl, this silent stranger, had walked into his home carrying secrets that could not belong to Earth. And now, she was warning him of danger. He stared at her trembling figure, and one terrifying thought filled his mind. This was only the beginning. Daniel's apartment had never felt so strange. The quiet walls that once gave him comfort now seemed heavy with secrets. The girl stood near the window, her silver hair catching the faint light, her glowing eyes restless. She looked trapped, like someone who wanted to escape but had no place to go. Daniel took a slow breath. "You keep saying this is the wrong place," he said carefully. "What do you mean? Where were you supposed to go?" For a moment she did not answer. She pressed her trembling hands together, as though struggling with a choice. Finally, her soft voice broke the silence. I was sent here, to work. Not here on Earth. My service was meant for another household, in another world. Somehow, the assignment system made an error, and I walked into your home. Daniel blinked, confused. Her words made no sense, yet they carried the weight of truth. Another world? He asked. His voice shook. You mean, not this planet? Her eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dim room. She nodded once, slowly, as though admitting a dangerous secret. I am a maid, she whispered, her voice shaking. I was trained to serve families across the stars. My people send us where we are needed. But this, she gestured toward his modest apartment, toward the small couch and table. This place is not on the list. It is not even in the right sector. I should never have been here. Daniel felt his legs weaken and he sank onto the couch. His mind refused to accept it, yet her trembling voice, her glowing eyes, her strange uniform, they were all proof that she was not lying. She was not from this earth. He laughed nervously, though the sound was hollow. So, you're telling me you just walked into the wrong house? Like a delivery gone wrong? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Not a house, a world, a planet. The room went silent. Daniel's skin prickled and a cold chill ran down his spine. He could not look away from her. The idea was insane, impossible. But the fear in her voice made it real. How did you even get here? Daniel finally asked. She raised her wristband again, the faint blue glow returning. Strange symbols flickered across the surface. We use a system, she explained quietly. A portal system. We step through the light, and it places us exactly where we are assigned. But tonight the light betrayed me. It opened the wrong door. It sent me here. To you. Daniel stared at the glowing device, its alien symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. His mouth was dry. And what happens now? Her hands shook as she closed the device. She looked away, her eyes filled with guilt. Now I will be punished. They will come for me. They will not forgive such an error. And anyone who has seen me. She stopped, biting her lip. Daniel leaned forward, his pulse racing. Anyone who has seen you. What? She lowered her gaze, her silver hair falling across her face. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They will erase. Daniel froze. The word hit him like a blade. Erase? He swallowed hard, his chest tight. Erase what? My memory. Her glowing eyes lifted, sadness shining in them. Not only memory. For the first time, Daniel felt real fear. This was no prank, no dream. He was caught in something far bigger than himself. If what she said was true, then he was now part of a mistake that powerful beings would want to correct. He stood and paced the room, his hands shaking. So let me understand. You were supposed to go to another world, but the system sent you here instead. And now, because of that, both of us are in danger? She nodded slowly, her glowing eyes never leaving him. Daniel laughed again, this time with panic in his voice. This is insane, absolutely insane. Aliens, assignments, portals, I don't even know your name. She hesitated, then whispered, Leora. Daniel turned to her sharply. Leora, he repeated, tasting the strange but beautiful name. Yes, she said softly. But you should not remember it, you should not know me at all. The sadness in her voice unsettled him. She looked fragile, yet every word carried the weight of a truth he could not escape. He walked back toward her, his voice firmer now. Listen, Leora. If you're in danger, then leaving you alone is not an option. You came here by mistake, fine. But I can't just let someone erase me because of it. Her eyes widened at his boldness, but instead of answering, she turned to the window. The night outside seemed darker than usual. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "They will notice soon, and when they do, this place will not stay safe." Daniel followed her gaze, his chest tightening. For the first time, he realized something terrifying. His life was no longer ordinary. His world had been touched by something beyond Earth, and there was no turning back. And somewhere, in the silence of the night, he thought he heard a faint hum, low, distant, but growing closer. The faint hum Daniel thought he heard did not fade. Instead, it seemed to linger in the air, like a secret sound only he and the strange girl could feel. He tried to shake it off, but Leora's glowing eyes told him it was real. She stood tense near the window, her hands pressed against the frame as if ready to run, though there was nowhere to go. Daniel's voice broke the silence. What was that sound? Leora did not answer right away. She touched the band on her wrist again, and the blue glow returned. Symbols flickered across the surface, moving so quickly that Daniel could not follow. Her face grew pale, her silver hair shining faintly as the device responded. Finally, she whispered, "They are searching." Daniel's heart skipped. Searching? For you? Her eyes met his, filled with fear. For us. I was not meant to be here. The system knows it made an error. It is correcting itself. That means they will come. Daniel took a step closer, his fear mixing with curiosity. You keep saying system. What is it? Some kind of machine? Leora hesitated, then raised her wrist. The blue light pulsed brighter, and suddenly a beam of light shot upward into the air between them. Daniel gasped as a three-dimensional image flickered into existence. It was like a floating hologram, lines of light forming circles, shapes, and pathways. The symbols shifted until they became a map, glowing brightly in his living room. Daniel's mouth went dry. What is that? This, Leora said softly, is the network. The system that moves us from world to world. Every star, every planet connected by gates. We step through and the system places us at our assignment. It never fails. Until tonight. Daniel stared at the glowing map, unable to believe his eyes. Tiny spheres of light floated across the map, each one pulsing faintly. Between them stretched lines of light connecting the spheres like threads in a web. Some were bright, some dim, but all alive. That's impossible, he whispered. This looks like the galaxy. Leora's voice trembled. It is. Every world you know, and many you do not. All linked. Daniel's knees felt weak, and he sank onto the couch, his eyes fixed on the glowing map. His small apartment, once ordinary, now held a secret that could change everything humanity thought it knew. But before he could speak, the hum outside grew louder. The window glass vibrated softly. Daniel's chest tightened. What's happening? He asked, panic rising. Leora's glowing eyes widened. They are adjusting the gate, looking for me. If they find my signal, they will come through. Daniel shot up. Wait, through? As in, here? Into my home? Leora nodded slowly. Yes, the gates are not fixed. They can open wherever needed. That is how I arrived here by mistake. Daniel's mind spun. He rubbed his face, trying to think. So, at any moment, someone could step out of thin air and appear in my living room? Her silence was answer enough. Daniel turned back to the hologram. His curiosity fought against his fear. Show me, he said suddenly. Show me how you came here. Leora hesitated. Her hands trembled as she touched her wristband again. The map shifted, zooming closer until one of the glowing lines lit up brighter than the rest. A circle of light formed in the air, spinning slowly. Before Daniel could react, the circle expanded, becoming a faint ring of glowing energy. It hovered in the center of the room, humming gently. The air around it shimmered like heat rising from asphalt. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. That's a portal. Leora nodded, her voice heavy with regret. Yes, the gateway. It was supposed to lead me to my assigned home, but it placed me here, in your world, with you. Daniel took a step closer, his eyes wide in disbelief. He felt warmth coming from the circle as if the air itself was alive. He reached out a hand but stopped just short of touching it. "Don't," Leora warned sharply. Her voice carried sudden strength. "It is unstable. One wrong touch, and it could tear." Daniel pulled his hand back quickly, his chest pounding. "Tear? Tear what?" Her gaze grew dark. "Space. Time. This entire room could vanish." The word sent a cold shiver through him. He stepped back, staring at the shimmering circle with new fear. Leora touched her wristband again, and the portal shrank until it collapsed into a faint spark of light. The map faded, leaving the room in silence once more. Daniel stood speechless. His mind screamed that this was impossible, but his eyes could not deny what he had seen. The universe was connected by gates, and one of them had just opened in his home. Leora's voice broke his thoughts. "Now you understand. This mistake is dangerous. If they find the signal, they will open the gate here again. And if they do, neither of us will be safe." Daniel's throat felt dry. "Then what do we do?" Her eyes glowed brighter, filled with desperation. "We hide, we wait, and we pray they do not find me before I can fix this." Daniel wanted to protest, to demand answers, but the look in her eyes silenced him. He realized she was not just afraid for herself, she was afraid for him too. The hum outside faded for now, leaving only the ticking of the clock. But Daniel knew the silence would not last. The hidden technology he had just witnessed was not meant for human eyes. And now that he had seen it, there was no going back. The room was quiet again, but Daniel's mind was not. His thoughts raced like a storm he could not control. A portal in his living room, a glowing map of the galaxy, a maid from another world. None of it made sense, yet he had seen it with his own eyes. He kept pacing, trying to calm his heartbeat, while Leora sat silently near the window, her silver hair falling over her face. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Daniel broke the silence. "You said we have to wait. But wait for what? You can't just sit here forever. There has to be something you can do." Leora lifted her eyes to him. They glowed faintly, filled with fear, but also something else, determination. "I cannot leave yet. The portal is unstable. If I step through it now, it could break and destroy this place. I must repair my link first, but..." She hesitated, lowering her gaze. "I can help in small ways, that is, my training." Daniel frowned. "Training? What kind of training?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, though it carried no joy. "To serve, to clean, to fix, to make things right again. That is what we are created for." Daniel blinked, almost laughing. "You're saying you traveled across the stars to clean?" She did not answer with words. Instead, she raised her hand and gestured toward the corner of the room. Dust had been gathering there for weeks, untouched by Daniel's lazy broom. With a soft wave of her fingers, the dust lifted into the air like smoke, swirling for a second before vanishing completely. Daniel's mouth fell open. "What the—" Before he could finish, Leora turned to the small coffee table where his cracked glass sat. She placed one finger on it. A faint glow passed from her hand into the glass, and in seconds the crack sealed itself as if it had never been broken. Daniel stepped back, his eyes wide. That's impossible." Leora shook her head gently. "Not impossible. It is simply the way of my kind. We are designed to repair, to restore. That is our gift, and our curse." Daniel stared at the perfect glass, his heart pounding faster than before. He wanted to feel amazed, but fear kept creeping in. If she could do this so easily, what else was she capable of? She looked at him, her expression calm but serious. "Now you see why I cannot be found here. If they know I used my abilities in this place, if they know a human has seen it, they will not forgive." Daniel swallowed hard. "You keep saying they. Who are they? Who are you so afraid of?" Her glowing eyes flickered with hesitation. "My supervisors. The ones who watch over every assignment. They control the portals, the network, everything. To them, mistakes must be erased, cleaned away like dirt." Daniel felt a chill run through him. "And by erase, you mean me?" She did not answer, but her silence was enough. Daniel sat down again, his hands shaking. He wanted to believe this was just some wild dream. But the clean corner, the fixed glass, the vanished dust, those were real. And now, so was the danger. Leora stood quietly, her figure glowing faintly against the dark window. She pressed her hands together as if in prayer. "You should leave this place," she whispered. "You should run far away, before they notice." Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, if I leave, they'll still find you. And if what you said is true, they'll still erase me anyway. Running doesn't change that." Her glowing eyes softened, and for the first time a hint of sadness touched her face. "You are brave." "Braver than most," Daniel tried to smile, though it was weak. "Brave? No, just stuck. I didn't ask for any of this." The hum outside returned, faint but growing. Both of them froze. The air seemed to vibrate, the sound coming closer, stronger. Leora pressed her wristband quickly, scanning the glowing symbols. Her eyes widened. "They are near." Daniel's chest tightened. "Here now?" She nodded slowly, fear flashing across her face. "Yes, they are searching this sector. If they open a gate here, you must not speak. You must not move. Promise me." Daniel's throat went dry, but he nodded. He had no choice. The hum grew louder, shaking the window slightly. A faint light shimmered in the corner of the room, the same spot where the portal had opened before. Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. He could not believe this was happening. Leora stepped in front of him, her glowing hands raised. "If they come, I will protect you, even if it costs me." Daniel stared at her, stunned. The strange alien maid who had walked into his home by mistake was now ready to defend him against forces he could not even imagine. The light in the corner flickered, brighter now, spinning like a circle of fire. The room filled with a low hum that rattled the furniture. Daniel held his breath. The circle pulsed once, twice, and then suddenly it went dark. The hum faded, leaving only silence. Leora exhaled shakily, her glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. "They almost found us." Daniel's chest heaved, his whole body trembling. He looked at her with disbelief. "What are we supposed to do now?" Leora lowered her hands, her silver hair falling into her face. "We hide, we wait, and I pray they do not open the gate again." Daniel swallowed hard. He knew now that he was caught in something far beyond him. And as much as he wanted to escape, a part of him knew the truth. It was already too late. The night pressed heavily against the windows, but inside Daniel's apartment, the air felt even heavier. Daniel sat stiff on the couch, his eyes locked on Leora, who stood near the corner with her glowing wristband. Her pale face was tight with worry. She kept glancing at the small screen, symbols flashing rapidly, each one making her frown deeper. "They are too close," she whispered. "The system, it is searching directly in this zone now." Daniel rubbed his hands over his face, trying to stay calm. "How do you know? How close are we talking?" Leora raised her glowing eyes to him. "Close enough that the next gate could open here." In this room, Daniel froze. His chest tightened, his breath catching in his throat. "And what happens if it does?" Her voice dropped, heavy with fear. "Then my supervisor will arrive." Before Daniel could reply, a low vibration hummed through the floor. The table rattled. The light bulb above flickered, dimming and brightening again. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. "What is that?" he asked sharply. Leora's voice trembled. "The gate. They are locking on to this location." The air in the corner shimmered, faint at first but quickly growing stronger. A swirl of light spun into existence, glowing brighter and brighter until it formed a circle. The sound grew louder, like a storm tearing through the walls. Daniel stumbled to his feet. "It's happening again." Leora raised her glowing hands, her body tense. "Stay behind me," she ordered. Her voice carried a strength Daniel had never heard before. The circle widened, spinning faster until the center filled with blinding light. Daniel shielded his eyes, but through the glow he saw shapes moving, shadows within the light. Something, or someone, was coming through. Then with a sudden crack, the gate stabilized. The swirling light became solid, forming a perfect circle. The hum dropped into silence, and out of the glowing portal stepped a tall figure. Daniel's breath caught. The figure wore a long uniform of black and silver, sharper and heavier than Leora's soft maid attire. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the sleeves, pulsing like living tattoos. His face was stern, pale, with sharp angles that seemed almost carved from stone. His eyes, unlike Leora's, glowed a harsh red. The supervisor. Leora's body stiffened. Her glowing hands lowered slightly, her head bowing. For the first time since she entered Daniel's life, she looked not just afraid, but powerless. The supervisor's gaze swept the room slowly, his red eyes pausing on Daniel for only a second before locking onto Leora. His voice was cold, deep and steady. "You are out of assignment." Leora's lips trembled. "It was an error, Supervisor. The system miscalculated. I walked into the wrong place." The supervisor's eyes narrowed, his red glow pulsing brighter. "There are no errors." Daniel felt the chill in those words crawl up his spine. He wanted to speak, to protest, but fear held his tongue. The supervisor took a step forward. "You know the rules. You were seen. The human must be erased." Daniel's heart dropped into his stomach, erased. The word echoed inside him heavier than before. He stumbled back, shaking his head. "Wait, what? No, I didn't ask for this."
She came here by mistake.
The supervisor's gaze turned on him, and Daniel felt as though the air itself was crushing his chest. Those glowing red eyes pierced into him, cold and merciless. "Silence," the supervisor said. His voice was not loud, but it carried a weight that froze Daniel in place. Leora suddenly stepped forward, blocking Daniel with her trembling frame. "Please," she begged, her glowing eyes wide. "Do not harm him. It was not his fault. I will return with you. Punish me, not him." The supervisor's expression did not change. "The rule is clear. Witnesses cannot remain." Daniel's heart hammered, his hands curling into fists. Fear and anger mixed inside him. "I'm not some insect you can just erase," he shouted. The supervisor raised one glowing hand, and a faint beam of red light sparked at his fingertips. Daniel's stomach dropped. He realized this was no bluff. But before the beam could grow, Leora cried out, "Stop!" Her own hands lit up with soft blue glow, brighter than Daniel had ever seen. She spread her fingers, and the light surged forward, forming a barrier between them and the supervisor. The red beam hit it and fizzled out with a hiss. The supervisor's eyes narrowed further. "You dare resist?" Leora's voice shook, but her stance held strong. "I will not let you erase him. Not while I live." Daniel stared at her in shock. She was defending him. This alien maid who had walked into his life by mistake was now standing against her own master to protect him. The supervisor stepped closer, the portal humming behind him like a living beast. His voice was like thunder now. "You will regret this defiance, Leora." Daniel's chest heaved as he looked from Leora to the terrifying figure. The truth hit him hard. This was not just about a mistake anymore. This was about survival. And in that moment, as the lights flickered and the room shook, Daniel realized something terrifying. The real fight had only just begun. The glowing portal burned like fire in the corner of Daniel's living room, filling the walls with sharp shadows. The air hummed with an energy so heavy that Daniel's skin tingled. The supervisor stood tall and cold, his red eyes locked on them like a predator ready to strike. Leora stood in front of Daniel, her hands glowing blue, a fragile barrier flickering between them and the man who had stepped from the gate. Daniel could hardly breathe. His chest rose and fell quickly, each breath shallow. He had never faced danger like this. He had never imagined he would stand in his own apartment with an alien maid shielding him from her terrifying master. "Step aside, Leora," the supervisor commanded, his voice low but powerful. "This human does not matter. You know the rule. Witnesses are erased. Nothing survives outside the system." Leora's head shook fiercely. Her silver hair flew around her face and her glowing eyes burned with desperation. "No, I will not let you touch him. He is innocent. This is not his fault." The supervisor raised one glowing hand again. A spark of red light built in his palm, growing stronger with each second. The glow reflected in Daniel's wide eyes and he felt his stomach drop. He knew what that light meant, death. Daniel stepped back, his hands trembling. "Leora, we can't fight him. He's too powerful." Her voice was quick, urgent. "Listen to me, Daniel. You have a choice. You can let them take me back and maybe they will spare you. Or," she looked over her shoulder, her eyes full of fear and sadness, "or you can help me escape. But if you do, they will never stop hunting you." Daniel's heart pounded like a drum. His mouth went dry. His choice was clear, yet impossible. Stay silent and let them erase her, or fight for her and risk his own life. The supervisor's voice thundered through the room. "Time is over. Choose now, human. Do nothing and she returns with me." Resist and you share her fate. Daniel's head spun. He saw the terror in Leora's glowing eyes, the way her hands shook as she kept the barrier alive. He saw the cold, merciless stare of the supervisor ready to strike. He thought of his quiet life, his safe, ordinary nights. All of it was slipping away, but deep inside a voice whispered, "She protected you. Now it's your turn." Daniel clenched his fists. "I won't let you take her," he said, his voice trembling but firm. Leora's eyes widened. "Daniel." The supervisor's face darkened, the red glow pulsing brighter. "Then you have chosen your end." The barrier between them cracked, sparks flying as the supervisor pressed his red light against it. Leora cried out, straining to hold the shield. "I can't hold it much longer," she shouted. Daniel's mind raced. He looked around the room wildly, searching for anything that could help. His eyes landed on her wristband, still glowing faintly. He remembered how it had opened the portal, how it had summoned light. Maybe, just maybe, it could do more. "Leora," he shouted. "Give me the device." Her head whipped around, shock in her eyes. "No, it's not for humans. You don't know what it will do." But the barrier cracked again, louder this time. The red light pushed harder, filling the room with heat. Daniel's voice broke with urgency. "If you don't, we're both finished." For a split second, she hesitated. Then, with a desperate cry, she ripped the glowing band from her wrist and tossed it to him. Daniel caught it, the strange symbols burning against his skin. The moment he touched it, a jolt of energy shot through his body. His vision blurred, his ears rang, and for a terrifying second he thought he would collapse. But then the device pulsed, recognizing him, and the blue glow spread across his arm. The supervisor's red eyes flared with rage. "Impossible." Daniel raised his shaking hand, the device sparking wildly. He had no idea what he was doing, but instinct told him to focus, to push back. The glow from the band surged outward, merging with Leora's barrier, doubling its strength. The red beam cracked against it and fizzled into sparks. The supervisor staggered a step, his face twisting in anger. "You dare to use our power?" Daniel's voice shook, but his eyes were steady. "I won't let you erase her, not now. Not ever." The room trembled with energy, the portal behind the supervisor swirling violently as if reacting to the clash. Leora gasped, her eyes wide as she looked at Daniel, disbelief and hope shining together. But the supervisor only grew darker, his voice booming like thunder. "Then you have doomed yourself, human, and this world will pay for your choice." The portal roared louder, the light nearly blinding. Daniel's heart pounded, the device burning hot against his skin. He felt power he could not understand racing through him, threatening to tear him apart. Leora's voice reached him through the chaos, urgent and trembling. "Daniel, hold on. Don't let go. Whatever happens, don't..." And then before she could finish, the portal exploded with light flooding the entire room. Daniel shielded his eyes, his body shaking as the world around him dissolved into pure, blinding energy. Everything went white. And then, silence.